Back in Colorado, I always remember this time of year with a sense of silent sadness as someone who needs the sun, who watches the leaves turn and begin to fall as a foretelling of the grayness that will follow. But here is the beauty of Florida. The sunlight stays and the weather is good enough to get outside and do things. I'm still getting fruit from the garden, so I'm holding off on pulling up the last of the bell peppers and pole beans. But I know at some point I'll have to perform the task. I have plans to create a narrow bed along this section, but that will have to wait for another time. I gave some thought to a winter cover crop and decided, as I promised last spring, to return to growing sweet peas. And they have responded to a sun that is a lot less punishing. I threw in some quinoa just to make things interesting. I've also been lucky and found things I can use in the garden, like these pine needles sitting by the side of the road, just waiting for me to pick them up. Green pine needles are very acid, but once they turn brown, make great ground cover and mulch, so I've set them aside to use later. The task at hand this week is to begin working on an outdoor cabinet from the wood I also found by the side of the road last week. The cabinet will act as a companion to the outdoor bar and will hold a fold-out garbage container in addition to shelving for storage. These are the dimensions I've worked out. So let's get started. The first step was to cut 2x4s in half to make them 2x2s. That will still be strong, but small enough to not add too much weight to the structure. I already cut the lengths I needed, so it was just a matter of cutting them in two. Something interesting after cutting them was I found a nest of dead bumblebees that had burrowed into the wood. Outside of discovering that bumblebees could burrow through wood, it was also sad to give witness to the death of these wonderful pollinators. I'll still use the wood and just hide the burrows inside the cabinet, but I will always remember them. Once that was done, I needed to make the pocket holes that would create the top and bottom of the cabinet, and from there I could join the pieces. Next, I needed to join the top to the bottom by adding inside legs. Once that was done, I needed to join that section to what would be the bottom. and onto the separator that would separate the shelving from the garbage container section. Don't worry, I plan to come back and sand down all the sections before adding the outside of the cabinet. Now that the frame is set up, I can begin the process of marking the height on the base for the shelving. The frame had to be turned upside down so the pocket screws will be hidden. That done, I could begin to put in the slats that will be the shelves. Using brad nails on the slats gives me a chance to check my progress and get a less permanent view of how the bones of the cabinet will look before securing them with screws. So far, everything looks good, so I'll stop here to begin the process of sanding down the frame, in addition to getting more wood to make the sides, and then decide how I will make the cabinet doors. See you next time.